Welcome to a Sober Shepherd's podcast. My name is David Weitz. I don't know about you, but when I was in third grade and the teacher went around the room asking everybody what they wanted to be when they grew up, I don't remember raising my hand and saying, you know what? I'd like to become an alcoholic and a drug addict. I'd like to disappoint my family, terrify the people who love me, destroy parts of my life I didn't even know were possible, and one day, decades from that moment, find myself walking into a clubhouse full of strangers, turning to the person sitting next to me and asking, was this your dream too in third grade? Of course that wasn't the dream. Nobody grows up thinking, one day I'd like to become the cautionary tale. Nobody puts that on a vision board. Nobody sits there as a kid thinking, I hope I end up nearly dead, emotionally bankrupt, spiritually empty, and sitting next to people I would have never met ever. And yet, there we were. Or there we are, walking into a room we never planned to enter, sitting next to people we never planned to meet, people from different neighborhoods, different backgrounds, different religions, different politics, different bank accounts, different educations, different disasters. Some had degrees. Some didn't even have a GED. Some came in from nice houses. Some came in with nowhere to sleep. Some looked fine on the outside. Some looked exactly as bad as they felt. And the strange thing is, once we get into recovery, a lot of that stuff doesn't matter nearly as much as we thought it did. But we don't know that yet. We don't know the person sitting next to us may become one of our closest allies. We don't know they may become our sponsor. We don't know they may become our best friend. We don't know they may break our heart. We don't know they may disappear. We don't know we may marry one of them. We don't know we may end up standing at one of their funerals. We don't know any of that yet. All we know in the beginning is that somehow, some way, life brought us into a room full of people we probably never would have met otherwise. And then something happens. We identify. Not because we all look the same. Not because we all believe the same things. Not because we all come from the same place. But because somebody opens their mouth and says something we thought only lived inside of us. That is where recovery relationships begin. And that is where it gets complicated. Because none of us arrive here knowing which of the strangers in the room are about to matter. The people who stay, the people who go, the people who save us, the people who hurt us, the people we outgrow, the people we cling to, and maybe most importantly, the wisdom to know the difference. You see, I thought recovery was just about not drinking and using drugs. I really did. I thought if I could just stop drinking and stop using drugs, my life would finally make sense. I thought the problem was what I was putting into my body. And to be fair, that was definitely a problem. But it wasn't the whole problem. What nobody explained to me when I first got here was that recovery was going to force me to look at the way I relate to other people. I didn't come here for that. I came here because my life was a mess. I came here because I couldn't stay stopped. I came here because I was running out of places to go, excuses to tell, and people willing to believe me. I wasn't looking for a lesson on relationships. I wasn't looking for a lesson on boundaries. I wasn't looking for a lesson on trust. I certainly wasn't looking for a lesson on letting people go. But somewhere along the way, that's exactly what happened. And what's funny is that the clues were there the entire time. I just didn't understand them. I thought recovery was teaching me how to live without alcohol and drugs. What it was really teaching me was how to live with people. There's a big difference. Because alcohol and drugs never disappointed me, but people did. Alcohol never ignored me, but people did. Alcohol never walked away, but people did. Alcohol never stopped calling, but people did. I'm not saying alcohol and drugs were my friend. I'm saying I understood alcohol and drugs. People confused me. And here's the part that keeps getting my attention. In the heart of our literature, it talks about our inability to form a true partnership with another human being. I can't tell you how many times I read those words without really stopping to think about them. Because I thought my problem was drinking. I thought my problem was drugs. I thought my problem was self-control. I thought my problem was willpower. I thought my problem was anything but that. Meanwhile, recovery kept putting people in front of me. Sponsors, newcomers, old-timers, mentors, friends, people I admired, people I couldn't stand. And somehow all of them became a part of my recovery. Not because I planned it, Not because they planned it, but because recovery has a funny way of putting people in our path that force us to grow. Sometimes through love, sometimes through disappointment, usually both. And maybe that's why this whole thing is so complicated. I came here thinking I had a drinking and drug problem. What I eventually discovered was that I also had a people problem. Because if recovery is partly about learning how to relate to other people, then sooner or later you're going to run into that hard truth. People don't come with instructions. People leave. Not all of them, but enough of them. Some relapse. Some move away. Some stop coming to meetings. Some get married. Some get divorced. Some get busy. Some get sick. Some die. Some just disappear. One day they're sitting 3 chairs down from you. The next day their seat is empty. And if you've been around long enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You'll catch yourself looking at that empty chair. Not because you expect them to be there, but because part of you still wants them to be there. That's the part nobody prepared me for. Nobody told me how many people I was going to love. Nobody told me how many people I was going to lose. Nobody told me how many people were going to walk into my life, change me forever, and then continue on without me. I thought recovery was going to teach me how to stop drinking and doing drugs. I didn't realize it was also going to teach me how to grieve, how to let go, how to be disappointed, how to forgive, how to watch people make decisions I wouldn't make, how to watch people disappear without an explanation, how to watch people come back, how to watch people never come back. And here's the crazy part. Most of those relationships weren't failures. I used to think they were. I used to think if somebody stopped calling, the relationship failed. If somebody found another meeting, the relationship failed. If somebody got a new sponsor, the relationship failed. If somebody drifted away, the relationship failed. But that's not true. Sometimes the relationship did exactly what it was supposed to do. Sometimes somebody was there for a reason. Sometimes somebody was there for a season. And every once in a while, if you're lucky, somebody becomes a lifetime. The problem wasn't that people were leaving. The problem was that I expected them to stay. And those are 2 very different things. There is no perfect way to do recovery. There isn't. There is no perfect path. And that was bad news for me because I wanted to get it right. I wanted recovery to come with an instruction manual. I wanted to find the right sponsor, the right meetings, the right people. I wanted somebody to tell me exactly what to do so I could avoid making mistakes. Instead, life handed me experience. And experience is a brutal teacher. Because experience usually gives the test first and the lesson afterward. Some of the most important lessons in my recovery came from getting it wrong. I didn't learn healthy relationships by having healthy relationships. I learned healthy relationships by surviving unhealthy ones. I didn't learn boundaries because I understood boundaries. I learned boundaries because I had none. I didn't learn what to expect from people because somebody explained it to me. I learned it by expecting too much, over and over again. Wrong expectations, wrong assumptions, wrong conclusions, wrong ideas about what another person was supposed to do for me. And every time I got it wrong, life handed me another opportunity to learn. Not because recovery was punishing me, but because recovery was teaching me. Slowly, painfully, repeatedly. And here's the part that took me years to understand. The wisdom to know the difference doesn't come before the experience. It comes after it. Nobody hands you wisdom. You earn it, one disappointment at a time, one misunderstanding at a time, one resentment at a time, one repaired relationship at a time, one forgiven mistake at a time. That's why I smile when I hear people talk about finding the perfect sponsor, the perfect meeting, the perfect fellowship, or the perfect recovery path. I spent years looking for perfect. But what I eventually found was reality. And reality turned out to be enough. For years, I thought healthy relationships were something you found. I thought one day I'd stumble across the right sponsor, the right friend, the right mentor, and then everything would finally make sense. What I eventually learned was something very different. Healthy relationships aren't something you find. They're something you become capable of participating in. That took me a long time to understand. A really long time. Because for most of my life, I was evaluating relationships based on what I could get from them. What can this person do for me? How can this person help me? Will this person stay? Will this person leave? Do they like me? Are they disappointed in me? Are they mad at me? Do they think about me as much as I think about them? And underneath all those questions was the same thing. Fear. Fear of loss. Fear of rejection. Fear of abandonment. Fear that somehow I wasn't enough. Recovery didn't remove those fears. Life taught me how to live with them. And that's where the wisdom started showing up. Not all at once. Not in some lightning bolt spiritual experience. Not because somebody gave me the perfect answer. It showed up quietly, through experience, through disappointment, through acceptance, through enough mistakes that eventually I started seeing patterns. And one of those patterns was this. The healthiest relationships in my life were rarely the most dramatic. They were the most consistent. The healthiest relationships weren't people making grand promises. They were the people who simply kept showing up, day after day, year after year. No fireworks, no emotional roller coaster, no performance, just consistency. And then one day I realized something. The relationships I spent years chasing usually disappeared. The relationships I spent years appreciating usually remained. Not all of them. Nothing lasts forever, but enough of them. Enough to teach me something I desperately needed to learn. That healthy relationships don't require constant management. They require gratitude. They require patience. They require realistic expectations. And most importantly, they require room for people to be human. Because the truth is, the people who helped me the most in recovery weren't perfect. They weren't supposed to be. They were just people. And somehow, that turned out to be enough. So what is the wisdom to know the difference? I don't think it's what I thought it was. For years, I thought wisdom meant knowing. Knowing who to trust. Knowing who would stay. Knowing who would leave. Knowing which relationships would work. Knowing which ones wouldn't. Knowing which people were worth investing in. Knowing which people would disappoint me. I thought wisdom was certainty. I don't think that anymore. I think wisdom is learning how to live without certainty. I think wisdom is understanding that people are allowed to be exactly who they are, not who I need them to be. I think wisdom is understanding that some people are going to walk beside me for a few weeks, some for a few years, and only a few for a lifetime. And I don't get to decide which is which. I think wisdom is realizing that every meaningful relationship doesn't have to become a permanent relationship. I think wisdom is realizing that somebody can be exactly what I needed for one season of my life and still not be a part of the next one. I think wisdom is understanding that a relationship can end without being a failure. That one took me a long time to understand. Because I used to measure every relationship whether it lasted. Now I measure it differently. What did it teach me? How did it change me? Did it help me grow? Did I become a better human being because it existed? If the answer is yes, maybe it served its purpose. Maybe that was the purpose all along. And maybe that's why the serenity prayer becomes more meaningful the longer I stay sober. Not because I've mastered it, but because life keeps giving me opportunities to practice it over and over. People leave. People come back. People disappoint me. I disappoint people. People change. I change. And somewhere in the middle of all that mess, all that uncertainty, all that humanity, I keep trying to remember something. My job isn't to control the outcome. My job is to show up honestly, to love people when I can, to forgive people when I can, to forgive myself when I can, and to remain teachable. Because the wisdom to know the difference wasn't waiting for me at the finish line. The wisdom was hidden inside every wrong expectation, every broken assumption, every empty chair, every repaired friendship, every goodbye, every relationship that taught me something I couldn't have learned any other way. And maybe that's the real miracle of recovery. I came here because alcohol and drugs were killing me. What recovery eventually showed me was how to live, one relationship at a time.